The McCaffrey family is slowly taking over football. With Super Bowl rings and All-Pro nominations already decorating the family tree, there's only more to come. Ed McCaffrey has 4 sons, with 2 already making the NFL and 2 more extremely talented players in the pipeline. In this video, we're gonna be going over the family lineage and what's next for arguably football's most athletic family. Before we even get to Ed McCaffrey's side of the family, we have the grandfather of the current generation. If you thought the grandkids got their acceleration and speed from Ed, well, that may not be exactly right. Grandfather Dave Sim was once the world record holder in the 100-yard dash, and he won the silver medal for that event at the 1960 Olympics. On top of that, he played baseball and football at Duke. In 1956, he appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated and was named the ACC Athlete of the Year. In 1959, he was selected by the Lions in the NFL Draft, and despite all this athletic achievement, he decided to stay in med school. Before he passed away in 2016, Christian McCaffrey called him the most interesting man in the world. With all that speed that we're going to be talking about in this video, how about a speedy way to buy tickets? Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. SeatGeek is a ticket app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. They give you a score from 0 to 10, with green signifying a good deal and red meaning a bad deal. I've got the app on my phone and I can say it's the best way to get tickets, whether it's the XFL, NBA, or even a concert. And guess what? You can use my code CHASECHATS, that's no space CHASECHATS, for $20 off your first purchase. I've got the link in the description where you can go get this great deal right now. And now back to the McCaffrey family. Dave Sim's kids extended the athletic achievement of the family. His oldest child, Sherry, was the top tennis player at Virginia. His son, Scott, was a state wrestling champ and fullback at Duke. And his youngest child, Lisa, was a star soccer player at Stanford. It was there where she met her future husband, a football player named Ed. Ed McCaffrey was an All-American his senior year at Stanford. His brother Billy played basketball at Duke and won a championship there in 1991. Billy then became known as the guy who left Duke after transferring to Vanderbilt the following season. He never made the NBA, but he did play in Europe. And their sister Monica played basketball at Georgetown. So athletics certainly seemed to be in the blood of Ed's family as well. The Stanford wide receiver was drafted in the 1991 NFL Draft by the defending Super Bowl champion New York Giants. McCaffrey's career in New York had its ups and downs. In his second year, he added up over 600 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, but Giants media often criticized his speed, which was somewhat unfair and pretty exaggerated, and before the 1994 season, he was a surprise cut. He wound up in San Francisco next, where he mainly played on special teams for the Super Bowl winning 49ers. When Mike Shanahan got the head coaching gig in Denver, he quickly signed Ed. After watching him have success in practice against the talented Niners secondary the year prior, Shanahan said, "You could see he was a legitimate top receiver in the NFL." And as predicted, Ed's career started to take off. Sports Illustrated once called him a goofy-looking white guy who got the same look that NBA players gave Larry Bird. As he rose to stardom in the early 80s, the "I can't believe I just got burned by his white dude face" look. And just like Bird, Ed was able to prove any doubters wrong. As a sizable target and tremendous blocker, he helped John Elway lead the Broncos to 2 Super Bowl wins, and in 2000 he eclipsed 100 receptions, which was then a team record. And during that time, he had some children. Here's what Lisa had to say about that. "That's why Ed and I got together, so we could breed fast white guys." Max McCaffrey was Ed's oldest child. He attended Valor Christian High School in Colorado. As a wide receiver, just 2 years apart from running back Christian, they created quite the 1-2 punch on that offense. In fact, the two were key in Valor's run of 5 consecutive state championships. Max went on to play at Duke just like past family members before him. He stayed for 4 years, having more production every season. With a 4.36 40-yard dash, he does have NFL speed, but still went undrafted. His dad said, "Max is faster than me. I'm not afraid to admit it. He's always been fast. Speed is something I always worked on really hard. He does have some God-given speed, and I think that will serve him well." The Broncos pursued him, but he surprisingly declined and opted for the Raiders instead. He stuck around through camp and the preseason, but ended up being a late cut. The Packers signed him late that season to their practice squad. He was even called up for the NFC Championship game as insurance for Jordy Nelson and a hobbled Packers receiving corps. He didn't make the Packers team the next season, and after that bounced around the league quite a bit, with his first reception finally coming in Jacksonville. In 2019, Max was drafted in the XFL by the DC Defenders. That didn't work out either, and now Max is the wide receivers coach at Northern Colorado under his dad Ed as head coach. Christian McCaffrey said if you ask the family who's the fastest, then everyone will just say themselves. Christian set the Colorado high school record for all-purpose yards and was named the Colorado Gatorade Player of the Year twice. The insane versatility was always there. Along the way, he ran the ball, passed the ball, blocked punts, punted himself, and played defense. As a 4-star recruit, he received tons of interest across the country, and he ended up following his father's footsteps to Stanford. In 2015, Christian had one of the best college football seasons ever. He broke Barry Sanders' famous record of all-purpose yards in a season, and McCaffrey did it with fewer touches. Somehow he didn't win the Heisman that year. I know we've got SEC fans on this channel, but when you break a record like that and don't win it, that's just gotta be pure East Coast or bigger program, whatever you want to call it, bias. He did win AP Player of the Year, and during the Rose Bowl tallied up 368 total yards to break the Rose Bowl record. The next year, Christian led the nation in all-purpose yards per game, but did have some injury problems later in the season that hampered his total volume. He declared for the draft and ran a 4.48 in the combine, which was slower than Max. Among running backs, Christian ran the fastest cone drill and 60-yard shuttle that year, and the Panthers drafted him 8th overall. So far in the NFL, Christian has improved substantially every year. This past season, he was voted as a first-team All-Pro at 2 positions, running back and flex. At 6'5", Dylan McCaffrey received his father's height, unlike his 2 older brothers. And to make himself more different, he also plays a different position than them too. But before entering high school, Dylan was unsure if he even wanted to play football and live in the shadows of his family. In the end, he decided he loved the game too much and never looked back. As a quarterback in his sophomore year, his first season as a starter, Valor lost the state championship by 1 point. Then the next 2 years, Dylan led the team to back-to-back titles. In 2016, he won the state's Gatorade Player of the Year, and just like Christian, he was a 4-star recruit. He didn't receive quite as much interest, but still got looks from Stanford and an offer from Duke, though he did end up picking Michigan. Over the past couple years, Dylan has played sparingly, but now that Shea Patterson has advanced to the NFL, there will be a big quarterback competition going on in Ann Arbor this year. As you can imagine, Dylan has fantastic running ability. Along with a good arm and more experience in the system, he may just be Harbaugh's choice to start next season. And it sounds like the Michigan coaching staff have really liked the work he'd been putting in on the scout team. Finally, we have Luke McCaffrey, the youngest of the family, and another quarterback. In his first 3 years of high school, he got clogged behind Dylan and current Colorado quarterback Blake Stenstrom on the depth chart. But he still made an impact all over the field as a running and receiving option, and as a defensive back. His senior year, his father Ed decided to coach Valor, and together they went 14-0 and won a state championship. As a 6'2" dual threat quarterback, he could have followed Dylan to Michigan or his family roots to Duke, but he ended up going with Nebraska. As a freshman, Luke got a little bit of playing time. It was certainly enough to give the Nebraska coaching staff just a little taste of his athleticism. He threw for 2 touchdowns, ran in for another, and lined up at receiver. Whenever it may come, Luke has the chance to become Nebraska's quarterback of the future. And in the meantime, he can still help the team elsewhere. Just like Christian can pass, run, and catch touchdowns, it'll be interesting to see how Dylan and Luke are used in the future. It just seems like you can put these McCaffreys just about anywhere, and they'll manage to do something with the ball. So you could call these guys football's most athletic family, or maybe just football's most versatile family. Either way, these family videos are fun to make. If you enjoyed this one, then check out my video on Arch Manning and the Manning family if you haven't already. Stay tuned for more videos, and please sub it up.